Caught me off guard. I was not expecting that whatsoever. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Wow, thank you. I am honored, absolutely honored to be, here today with all of you. And if I can, I'd like to tell you a story. The year was 2003. Oh, I'll never forget the first time I held that letter in my hand. It was quivering. But the anticipation was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. My hopes and dreams were about to be fulfilled in a matter of seconds as I ripped that letter open, because I knew I was going to medical school. So I open up the letter. I start reading. Dear Rene, due to the large numbers of highly qualified applicants this year, we regret to inform you that we were not able to offer you a spot in the 2004 entering class of blah, 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 blah. Medical school at this point, I didn't care. I went blank. I was stunned, speechless. I brushed myself off and I thought to myself, it's no big deal. I applied to other schools. Surely another school is going to say yes. The problem is, this didn't happen to me once. It happened again and again. And what I didn't realize is that by the end of that application cycle, I actually amassed a collection of 12 rejection letters. Folks, I had officially been rejected from medical school. I can laugh about it now, but back then it was not a laughing matter. I started crying, threw myself down on the ground. My parents thought I was losing it. And I thought to myself, well, okay, you know what? All right, I got this. No big deal. After all, some of you may not have known this, but I used to be a competitive figure skater. And I knew a thing or two about setbacks. I mean, I spent years getting up at 5 a.m., learning how to do axles and double salchows, falling down on the ice, getting back up again to go compete. One of my figure skating coaches even told me one day, right before a competition, hey, if you fall down, you do so gracefully. And you get back up, and you keep moving, and you keep skating. The performance must go on. So I got back up. Fast forward now to 2004. I had already graduated from college. I was still competing in figure skating. Of course, in my parents' house, if you're going to be here, you have to be working and in school and working on getting out of the house. So I did just that. I was working. I was repeating some science classes that I didn't do so hot in undergrad, and just essentially started my own self-directed post-baccalaureate program. Thought I knew what I was doing. I buckled down. I started studying for my second MCAT. How many of you in here can relate to that? Yes, I feel you. For those of you that don't know, the MCAT is the medical college admissions test. It is a beast. And I started applying to medical school for the second time. That application cycle came and went. And little did I know it, but I was about to become the not-so-proud owner of another collection of rejection letters. 20 letters this time. Yeah, you heard that correct. I applied to 20 schools. Every last one of them said no. 20 no's. 20 no thanks. Thanks but no thanks. 20 better luck next time. Now at this point, I was dejected. I was at a crossroads. Like some of you have experienced this who are reapplicants. Do I walk away? Is now the time for me to walk away from becoming a doctor? That was my lifelong dream. I knew I wanted to be a doctor since I was 5, but I had zero clue as to what it was going to take to get to be called doctor. Do I get back up and apply to medical school again, now for the third time? I don't know if you guys know what that does to you. What am I supposed to do now? I was tired. I was emotionally drained. I know some of you can relate to that. That's why I love getting the students who are reapplying. Can anybody here relate to that today? Yeah, not everybody gets in the first time. And not only that, which I know you guys can relate to, I hardly had any money to reapply to medical school or pay for another MCAT. It is thousands of dollars to apply to medical school. And then we get back up and we do it all over again in 4 years and pump thousands of dollars into applying to residency. Most of us don't have that kind of money. Then one day I received a phone call that would change the course of my life forever. So I was on application cycle number 2. I actually got a phone call from the associate director of admissions at Indiana University School of Medicine. I believe she's now the director of admissions there, Dr. Karen Smart. And she reached out to me personally. I remember where I was. I was at home, literally in my house, talking to my dad, my mom. The phone rang. My dad answered it. He's like, I think you need to take this. Someone from Indiana University School of Medicine is calling you. And at this point, this was probably about March, April, and for those of you who have applied and have not gotten your letter, you know that that's the golden hour because most people are accepted into medical school by then. I hadn't heard from a soul. And I said, oh, this is it. I got this. They're about to invite me personally. I'm about to get accepted to medical school. I was trying to compose myself. She said my application was good, and I was like, yes, this is it. We want to invite you. No. She said your application was good, but it was not great. I had some areas that needed improvement. And she told me point blank, I can still hear it to this day, we cannot offer you a spot this year, but I'm inviting you to participate in our master's program. Wait, what? What? More school? More schooling? I'm tired of school. It's not medical school. I said, are you serious? But this was a pivotal juncture in my life. What I didn't realize is that God had actually opened up a door of opportunity for me. But it was up to me to step out in faith and walk through that door. As far as I was concerned, my parents had my bags packed before I could even hang up the phone. They said, what is the point of trying to reapply from the same vantage point? We're going to have you in Indianapolis. The master's program actually started in about 6 weeks. Can you imagine that? Never left home before, moved out of my life, moved back in with my parents, okay, to the parents who've got college kids moving back in with them, moved back in with my parents after college, and here I had to be in Indianapolis in 6 weeks. I didn't know a single soul in Indiana, not one. No family, no friends, zero connections to Indiana, but yet here I was about to walk through this door that God opened up. I was all alone. And sometimes that's not a really good feeling, as I'm sure some of you can relate to, especially as you're going through this process. But I knew I was one step closer, just one step closer to becoming a doctor. So I moved, packed up everything, drove in, corn everywhere. All 4 sides, just corn. And then all of a sudden, no offense to anybody that lives in Indiana or grew up in Indiana, but that was a shock for me growing up in Colorado. We had the beautiful Rocky Mountains, and I went from mountains to flat. I did the work. I completed the 2-year master's program. And mind you, this is a master's program that does not guarantee you admission. You still had to work for it at IU. And I reapplied to medical school for the 3rd time. But eventually my yes letter did arrive. I still had to interview at IU. Had an extremely difficult interviewer. I don't know if any of you have gone through that, because not everybody necessarily is happy that we're applying, and I may have met that person who grilled me coming and going about my MCATs and this, that, and the other, and what happened here in this class in college. But I knew I was determined to be a doctor. I didn't let it faze me. Turned out, he said that was one of the best medical school interviews he had ever sat on. So my yes letter came. I got accepted to medical school. I was so excited. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But can I share a secret with you? Okay. Once I started medical school, I thought to myself, oh, I'm done. All my struggles are over. After all, it took me 3 years to get in, broke, probably still trying to pay off MCATs, okay? All the blood, the sweat, the tears, I paid my dues, right? I paid my dues. Newsflash, I was wrong. Little did I know my fight was just beginning. I had literally stepped into the boxing ring that is medical school. And I have a confession to make. Medical school was hard. Medical school downright kicked my butt at times. I struggled. And as Sam mentioned, I'll be very honest, because a lot of us think that, oh, you're just a doctor and you got the white coat and you're doing well. That's not the case. That's not everybody's story. I keep it real. I struggled. What I had dreamed of originally, being a doctor, when I was just a wee little thing, all of a sudden was not matching up with my reality. I quickly realized I was going up against students who were legacies. How many of you know what a legacy is in medicine? Yeah. And if any of you are legacies, again, no offense to you, I think that's a beautiful thing. But for those of you that don't know what a legacy is, that's when your dad's a doctor, mom's a doctor, grandma's a doctor, my sister's a doctor, Uncle Joe 10 cousins removed is a doctor. Can you imagine the years of wisdom, insight, and knowledge that were passed down and continue to be passed down to those legacy students by the time they step foot on campus in medical school? Think about that. I remember the day that we started as first-year medical students. It's called ICM, Introduction to Clinical Medicine. And that's when you go and you start speaking to patients and learning how to talk to patients for the first time, doing your history, like we teach you all how to do in Saturday Morning Professor. Chief complaint, HPI, family medical history or past medical history. And I remember waiting nervously in the hallway in the hospital, and one of my classmates came up to me and he's like, "Oh, are you ready? I got this." And I was just like, oh my God, I'm just trying to remember the patient's name and my name, because I got to introduce myself first. And he was just like, "Well, I've been doing this since I was in junior high school. My dad's a doctor, and I've been shadowing him ever since then. I already know how to do this. I already know how to take a history." And I remember that sinking feeling that just comes across you, and I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I'm about to bomb. This man has been doing this since junior high. I've never done this before. And so it was like being thirsty and trying to drink and sip water from a fire hose. I didn't have an I Am Able Foundation. I didn't have a Dr. Conway or any of the other mentors that are here to guide me. And that's what many of you are up against. And at that point, my medical experience began to feel downright painful, and I pleaded to God, take this pain away. I thought I couldn't bear it. Excuse me. It's crazy how after all these many years, those feelings come back. They do. This was not planned, so excuse me. I remember telling God, please just take it away. I don't want this anymore. I didn't want to be a doctor if it meant that I was going to have to suffer. I didn't want it. I couldn't understand it. Why me? Why do I have to go through all of this? My classmates are skipping down the halls, passing all their exams. And then to add insult to injury, for those of you who are in medical school, if I even mention the word step 1, okay, some of y'all are going to convulse, okay? For those of you that don't know what step 1 is, that is your very first medical licensing board exam. You cannot practice without taking step 1. Then you take step 2. Then you take step 3. But you can't take the other 2 until you get past the first one. and I failed. I failed by 3 points. What a slap in the face. My other classmates were off onto their third-year rotations. That's when you start seeing patients in the hospital. And I remember being on my pediatric rotation, getting a call from the dean. Never a good story, never a good sign. And he told me, I'm sorry to tell you, but you failed step 1. And we're going to have to pull you from your rotation. Because in order to be a third year, you had to pass step 1. And that was literally the lowest point of my life. But God spoke to me just as plain as day, and I was begging him to take that burden away from me. I heard 2 distinct things that he said to me. First thing, what do you think your future patients are going through? Do you know the burden and the pain many of them are bearing at this moment or about to bear? Who are they going to turn to? Which doctor will empathize with them and genuinely understand the depth of their pain? Who is going to stand by them and fight for them when they get that cancer diagnosis, or when they are struggling with trying to decide if they can pay for their medication or put food on their table to feed their kids? Who can I send that will comprehend that level of pain? And God said, I'm sending you. Thank you. And the second thing God said to me, I know they're telling me my time is up. Y'all got to give me just a few more minutes so I can finish this. The second thing God said to me was, I allowed you to bear all of this so that one day, when you are a doctor and a student comes to you in tears, like I'm in tears right now, discouraged and ready to give up because things are not going well for them, you will be able to speak to them and encourage them from firsthand experience. My pain was not in vain, even though I'm still crying today, but these are actually happy tears because it's good to be able to let this out. My pain actually had purpose, and I firmly believe that it is not an accident that I am standing before all of you today to let you know that your life also has purpose. So to the students and the mentees, I want you to know this. The journey set before you is nothing shy of a roller coaster. Get ready. Put your seatbelt on and hang on tight. But how privileged are all of you? Think about that. This is a gift. This is an honor. How privileged are you that you get to be an active participant in one of the greatest exercises of the human existence, and that is being a physician and being entrusted to care for the sick. I like what Oprah Winfrey said, even if you don't have all the answers or you don't have a plan, you must know the direction in which you desire to go. So I'm asking all of you, current mentees, new mentees, what is your destination? If it is to become a future hero in healthcare, then guess what? You're in the right place. Join me, join I Am Able, and let us help you get there together. And I hope my story didn't scare you. I promise you, trust me, I spent time doing this makeup, getting this makeup done. I was not trying to cry today. So this is genuine, but I hope my story did not scare you. But let me remind you that you do not have to step into that boxing ring by yourself. You don't have to get beat up. I was in Mike Tyson, Pacquiao, whoever. I was getting beat up. You do not have to go at it alone. Do not let the grandiosity and the intensity of this journey intimidate you. Please, if nothing else, you get that white coat, you walk through those halls of that ICU, of that operating room, the clinic, and you hold your head high. You have every right to be there, just like everyone else. Sometimes you have to start small before you can go big, and today's the first day. You're taking that small step here today. In due time, those steps are going to add up, and they're going to march you right across that stage at graduation, just like I did back in 2011. Thank you. They're going to march you right into the wards in the hospital, into the ICU, maybe into the laboratory as a cutting-edge researcher, or even into the boardroom as a chief medical officer. Whatever your destination is, it's going to be great. So do not be afraid to step into that boxing ring. Be ready to fight, not only for yourself, but for your patients and the communities in which you will serve. Find your vision, define your vision, and commit yourself to that vision, and use your gifts to help advance that vision. Now more than ever, we need you. Medicine needs you. Healthcare needs you. And with that, since I know our time is running short, I want to remind all the parents and the grandparents, step-parents, brothers, sisters, supporters who are here that whatever the role is that you are playing in the life of your loved one, never underestimate the power of your presence and your words of encouragement. Because one of the greatest gifts we will ever receive in life is to know that someone believes in us. I pray that the mentors will continue to choose mentoring, because mentoring can change a life forever. Thank you.